There are places in this world that maps no longer show. Villages erased from history. Names forgotten by time. Stories buried beneath silence. And somewhere deep within the frozen mountains of Eastern Europe, there once existed a village that disappeared overnight. Officially, it never existed. But the people who lived near those mountains still whisper about it, even today. They call it Raven's Hollow. The village was small. Fewer than 200 people lived there, surrounded by endless forests and towering, snow-covered peaks. Raven's Hollow was isolated from the outside world. Winters lasted for months. Roads disappeared beneath ice. And during storms, nobody entered or left. Yet despite its isolation, the village survived for generations. The people hunted animals in the forests, grew crops during the short summers, and followed traditions older than anyone could remember. But there was something strange about the village. The locals avoided talking about the mountains after dark. Children were warned never to enter the northern forest alone. And every year, during the first snowstorm of winter, the villagers locked every door and window before sunset. Nobody explained why. Outsiders believed it was simply superstition. They were wrong. In December of 1930, a violent snowstorm cut the village off from the nearest town for almost 2 weeks. Nobody thought much of it. Storms like this happened every winter. But when the roads finally reopened, something felt wrong. A supply merchant traveling toward Ravens Hollow noticed the village was completely silent. No smoke rose from chimneys. No animals wandered outside. No voices echoed through the streets. At first, he assumed everyone was asleep. But as he entered the village, fear slowly took hold. Every house stood open. Meals still sat on tables untouched. Candles had melted completely to the floor. Some homes still had fires burning weakly inside. But the villagers themselves were gone. Every single one of them. Men, women, children, vanished. Authorities arrived 3 days later. What they discovered only deepened the mystery. There were no signs of violence. No blood. No bodies. No signs of struggle. The village dogs remained chained outside, frozen to death in the snow. Livestock had been left starving in barns. It was as if the villagers had suddenly abandoned everything they owned within moments. But the strangest detail of all was the lack of footprints. Fresh snow covered the entire village. Yet investigators could not find a single trail leading away from Raven's Hollow. It was impossible. Nearly 200 people had disappeared, without leaving a trace behind. Search teams spent weeks exploring the surrounding mountains. Soldiers searched caves, forests, frozen rivers. Nothing. Then one of the search groups discovered something disturbing deep within the northern forest. An enormous circle carved into the snow. Trees around it had been burned black. And at the center of the circle, investigators found dozens of strange symbols carved into the frozen ground. Symbols nobody recognized. The discovery terrified local villagers from nearby towns. Some believed Raven's Hollow had been involved in ancient rituals hidden within the mountains for centuries. Others claimed something lived beneath the forest. Something old, something waiting. But the investigation took an even darker turn days later. Inside the village church, authorities discovered a hidden room beneath the floorboards. The room contained old journals written by the village priest. Most pages were damaged by moisture and age. But one entry remained readable. It was dated only 2 nights before the disappearance. The journal read, "The voices have returned from beneath the mountain. People hear them at night. They call our names from the forest. Some have already followed them into the snow. God forgive us for what we awakened." After that discovery, panic spread quickly. The government ordered the entire investigation sealed from the public. Soldiers removed documents. Witnesses were silenced, and maps showing Raven's Hollow slowly disappeared over the following years. Official records claimed the village had simply been abandoned after a severe winter storm. But investigators involved in the case told a different story. Several claimed they heard strange sounds at night while staying inside the empty village. Whispering voices, footsteps outside their cabins, and lights moving through the forest despite the freezing storms. One soldier later reported seeing figures standing motionless between the trees, watching them from the darkness. The next morning, he refused to speak another word. Eventually, the military abandoned Ravens Hollow completely. Nobody returned. Nature slowly consumed the village. Buildings collapsed beneath heavy snow. Roads vanished beneath forests. And over time, the world forgot the place ever existed. But not everyone forgot. Even today, locals living near those mountains refuse to travel there during winter. Hunters claim they sometimes see lights deep within the forest after midnight. Travelers report hearing distant voices calling from the snow during storms. And according to several stories, people who follow those voices are never seen again. Perhaps Raven's Hollow was destroyed by fear. Perhaps the villagers fled into the mountains during a terrible storm. Or perhaps something beneath those frozen forests still waits in darkness, waiting for new voices, new footsteps, new visitors. Because some places are never truly abandoned, and some stories never stop echoing beyond time.